Hey everyone, my name is Juan Rodriguez. I'm originally from Ecuador and I'm currently a senior finance major with an accounting minor here at St. Bonaventure. Today, I'll be leading our macro-environmental analysis of the footwear industry. To kick things off, we conducted a PESTEL analysis. For those who need a refresher, PESTEL stands for political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal forces. Our goal here was to step back and look at the big picture, the external drivers that are shaping the footwear landscape as a whole. It's important to remember that these aren't just specific to Deckers. These are macro forces impacting every competitor in the market. To ensure our analysis was objective, each team member researched and ranked key issues independently. We then agreed to narrow those down to the 8 most critical factors facing the industry today. Before I reveal our final rankings, I'm going to walk you through the specific issues we identified within each of these 6 categories and discuss how they are currently pressuring the industry. To start, let's look at the political and legal landscape, specifically the tariff volatility that has redefined global supply chains over the past year. So, earlier this year, the Trump administration announced reciprocal tariffs, 34% on Chinese goods and 46% on Vietnamese goods, and the industry basically went into chaos mode. There's currently a 1-year hold on some of the China tariffs, but no one's relaxing over that because it can be reversed at any time. And it's not just China. The USMCA, which is a US-Mexico agreement, is up for review in 2026. So companies that were looking at Mexico as an alternative are in a holding pattern. On top of that, a new executive order imposed an 18% tariff on Indian goods, specifically footwear and textiles. That's a big deal because a lot of brands had just started shifting production to India as a China plus one strategy. And now that option is a lot less attractive too. Basically, wherever you look right now, there's a tariff attached. And that's a perfect transition into our economic analysis because when those costs at the border go up, they eventually hit the consumer's wallet. And right now, the consumer is reaching a breaking point. On the economic side, the picture is highly concerning. The US footwear market grew less than 1% in 2025, and 2026 is actually projected to decline in real terms. Inflation has been grinding people down for a few years now, and consumers are starting to make very different decisions, trading down to cheaper brands, shopping secondhand, or just not buying. What's interesting is this isn't just happening with budget shoppers. About 47% of global consumers, including high earners, now describe themselves as value seekers, which means brand loyalty is becoming really fragile. Meanwhile, the global picture is very uneven. While the US is a stallion, markets in Asia, specifically India and China, are still seeing growth. This is forcing brands to pivot their entire volume strategy towards those regions just to keep their heads above water. On the social and cultural side, there are 2 major shifts really standing out. The first is the wellness shift. Since COVID and the explosion of remote work, people just want comfortable shoes, and that preference has stuck. 84% of consumers now say wellness is a top priority when making purchases. And that spending tends to be pretty resilient even when budgets tighten. This has created a massive tailwind for athletic and athleisure categories. The second shift is brand loyalty eroding, which ties back to the economic pressures. Only 19% of consumers say brand name is a key reason they buy, and that number was 21% just a year ago. Brands can't just rely on their reputation anymore. They have to earn it constantly. And a lot of that is now happening through short-term content like TikTok, rather than traditional marketing. Now, to keep up with these consumers and high costs, companies are leaning harder than ever on technology to fix the supply chain. Technology is generally changing what's possible in footwear right now. AI-driven design tools and 3D printing have cut production timelines from 18 months down to just a few weeks. That's a massive shift. And there's an added bonus in this tariff environment. If you can print products locally, you bypass import duties entirely. So the business case for these technologies is only getting stronger. On the retail side, food scanning and personalization tools are starting to solve the industry's 30 billion return rate problem, which is huge for e-commerce margins. That said, the challenge is that this stuff is expensive to implement, and companies need both the budget and the trained workforce to pull it off. There's also a newer development worth watching, agentic AI, which are software agents that can literally search and purchase on behalf of consumers. This fundamentally changes the game. Brands are no longer just marketing to humans, they're marketing to algorithms that prioritize data and durability. The environmental landscape has two different pressures. The first is regulatory. The European Union is banning the destruction of unsold goods starting July 2026, so no more quietly discarding excess inventory. And by 2027, every product sold in the EU will need a digital passport, documenting its materials, recyclability, and supply chain origin. That's a complete rethink of how companies manage inventory and sourcing transparency. The second pressure is physical climate risk. A huge portion of footwear is manufactured in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, and those regions are seeing increased flooding and extreme weather. That's not a future concern. It's already disrupting supply chains today. And when you factor in that a single pair of athletic shoes generates up to 30 kilograms of CO2, you can see why regulators are paying close attention to this industry specifically. So, when we brought all of this research together as a team, here's how we ranked the top 8 macro-environmental issues facing the footwear industry. Tariff volatility and trade policies, consumer stagnation and trading down, environmental regulatory compliance and climate risk, the high costs of technological innovation versus necessity, erosion of brand loyalty, supply chain fragility, the wellness and athleisure shift, and supply chain transparency. What's important to note is that these issues don't really exist in isolation. They'll feed into each other. Together, they paint a pretty challenging environment that Deckers is going to have to navigate carefully. With that, I'll hand it off to Kel for the industry overview and competitor analysis. Thanks.